I had the absolute pleasure earlier today of meeting Elizabeth Njambi from Kenya. She is the founder and CEO of Wakili.sha. Wakili is Kiswahili for lawyer, and Wakili.sha means to represent. Elizabeth has channeled her vision to use the law and the power of representation to change the lives of some of the most vulnerable in society, children in conflict with the law. Children who each have their own story and who deserve to have their whole lives ahead of them. Wakili.sha addresses the plight of children in conflict with the law in several ways. First, with free pro bono legal representation, because the language of law is not easily accessible and representation is essential for justice. Second, with education to help them build a life for afterwards, help them build their future that they are entitled to. And thirdly, with advocacy to raise awareness and change perceptions in society. And on that latter point, she has developed the Wakili.sha podcast, which has played a pivotal role in raising awareness of children's rights in conflict with the law in Kenya. She has achieved a substantial global audience spanning 53 countries, challenging the biases against children who are in conflict with the law, emphasizing their right to education and protection. Through their efforts, Wakili.sha has impacted up to 1,500 children in correctional facilities, enhancing their digital literacy and employability. And she will not stop there. She has incredible plans for the future. It is so exciting to speak to this woman, and I give her to you now. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, and thank you so much, Jessica. I remember the first day I was sent home from school because my school fees were in arrears. I was 9 years old, a smart and talkative pupil. Then my teacher came round, calling out names, asking us to step out of the classroom. And we were told to go home and only return when our school fees were cleared. I was so confused and scared. Why me? How would I get home all alone without the school bus? And when would I return to school? I was raised in Kenya by a single mother. And on that day, I remember the look of helplessness on my mom's face when she saw me. I think it was then I realized that we were poor and that the world is unfairly different for the rich and for the poor. 20 years later, I stand before all of you today Thank you. Thanks to the many friends, relatives, government, and private entities who've sponsored my education. Unfortunately, some of my friends who were sent home that day were not as lucky. Some had to drop out, and their lives transformed for the worse. Over 1/5 of primary-age children in sub-Saharan Africa are out of school. When drought struck in Kenya early this year, more than 3 million children abandoned school to help their parents go in search of water and pasture. As you can imagine, the life consequences of missing school are enormous. Those from socioeconomically disadvantaged backgrounds with limited access to basic education are at greater risk of falling into crime or being victims of exploitation. Those children that come into conflict with the law mostly face petty charges such as stealing and loitering, yet they are stuck in the criminal justice system for years. When Kenyan children become entangled in this criminal justice system, a staggering 80% of them are deprived of essential legal representation. And during their long time held in detention, which is far away from their families, the children are denied their right to quality education. One of our clients, for example, has been in remand for over 3 years now with no schooling. This denial of formal education only increases their chances of repeat offending. Then, upon their release, schools will often turn them away, labeling them as delinquents. And I'm here to say that they are not. They are children. During law school, I volunteered at the Committee Youth Correctional and Training Center, where hundreds of school-aged boys are held, mostly for minor offenses. And as I spoke to them, I realized that these children were just like me, except I had been lucky enough to advance my education. I could not imagine just how terrifying it must be for them to face court with little or no comprehension of the seriousness of the situation or any legal assistance. And so I founded my nonprofit, Wakili.sha initiative, to promote their access to justice by providing pro bono legal assistance, mentorship, and skills building. Thank you. Free legal representation ensures that a child has a fair trial. Mentorship and skills development improves their quality of life and reduces recidivism. To date, we have helped more than 1,500 children in conflict with the law. Our very first client has settled back into society and is looking to study mechanics. And we recently trained 40 children on digital literacy and safety. We provide some of the education that the system has refused them. Our Wakili.sha podcast, as you heard, is the only podcast on juvenile justice in Africa. According to FeedSpot rankings, it is the 6th most popular juvenile justice podcast in the world. Our audience spans 53 countries, and in fact, you can help us get to 190. Yes. We explore issues such as sex trafficking and how girls fall into crime. We also talk to people like Paul, who was in trouble with the law as a child, but now works in a senior role at a financial institution in Kenya. As co-host of the podcast, I know we must break the stigma surrounding children in conflict with the law. They are children in need of care and protection who have been continuously failed by the system. So we encourage their peers, teachers, school administrators, and their communities to welcome them back and support their education. Because you know what? Every child has an inherent right to learn, and protecting that right is how we fight inequality. Thank you.